Alright, what is up, boys? Welcome to the official 2017 playoff scenarios video. Yeah, it's my favorite time of the year, fantasy speaking. Doesn't feel like too long ago. I was, the last video I made drawing the names out of those cups, deciding who the divisions would be, and now here we are, 12 weeks later, about to begin the playoffs. So, I'm not going to try to make this video too long. The rundown's going to be, we're going to talk about our 3 division races, as no one's clinched their division yet, with a game left. Then we'll look at the wild card spots, who's going to be in, who's going to be out, and lastly, finish up with this groundbreaking new fantasy technology, these playoff berth probabilities, calculated out for everyone who's still alive. You're not going to want to miss it. Don't go anywhere. Yeah, so first up, what do I want to talk about first? Let's talk about our most thrilling division by far, in the way that it's definitely been the worst division ever in our league's history, so that's something to note, and I'm proud to be a part of it, in Carter's division, where the winner is going to have a losing record on the season, be 6-7, and they may not deserve a playoff spot, but that's how fantasy works, and they'll probably have let's be honest, the winner of the whole thing's probably coming from this division, just because why not? The playoffs are always a shit show. But so this is the scenario that we're looking at. Scud is the only person who's been eliminated so far. The man who was former commissioner, who I guess thought that if he wasn't commissioner anymore, his season would go better. Didn't really work out that way, but so, Carter is facing me in the final week. And if Carter wins that game, he wins the division flat out. He's ahead of everyone on points. So, if he wins and is still tied with Kev, he's got way more points and Kev can't catch him. So, Carter, you just need to win and you win the division. For me, I need to beat Carter, so I'm ahead of him. And then I need Kevin to lose. So, if Kevin and I are tied, as in I beat Carter and he beats Scud, we'll both be 6-7, but he has a tiebreaker over me because he won both of our meetings this year. Fucking Kev. The only 2 weeks he goes off on the whole season were against me. But that's beside the point. So the scenario we're looking at in this division one more time is Carter just has to win and he wins the division. Me, I have to beat Carter and Kevin has to lose to Scud. Kevin, he has to beat Scud, and Carter has to lose to me. So that's what we're looking at in Carter's division. Okay, we're rolling. Let's look at Dan's division next. Dan is not participating in this final fight for the division. He was unable to claim his own division's title. But it'll be Ryan and Nick, both at 8-4, tied for the lead in the entire league. And this is what we're looking at here. They don't play each other. I can't remember who I want to say Ryan plays Dan and Nick plays Nate. So Ryan, to win the division. Oh, so for either Ryan or Nick, if they win and the other person loses, obviously they win. Because they'll be the only team at 9-4 when the other's at 8-5. So that's how either of them win the division, and then the tiebreaker for if they either both lose or both win. This one's easy, actually. Not too complicated. The tiebreaker for if they both lose or both win is who has more points, because they split the season series, and Ryan's right now 64 points ahead of Nick. So Nick realistically needs to win and Ryan to lose, because if they both do the same thing, 64 points is a lot to catch up on. So, that's what's going on there. Dan's division between Ryan and Nick. Lastly, Josh's division. Josh over in the Great East, out in China. He's not able to defend his own division. It's Jude and Bob going at it in the final week. They're not playing each other, but so it's the same type of scenario as the previous one. If one loses and the other wins, whoever wins will win the division. But here they're very, very far apart on points, with Jude having way more. So realistically, Jude will win the division if he wins or Bob loses, and Bob needs the combo of a win and a Jude loss. So, that's the division races. Hopefully that came off clearly. Now we've got a few more scenarios for who actually is going to get those wildcard spots and who's making the playoffs. So we'll start with Ryan, Jude, Nick, and Bob. Even though you four are still fighting for the division in the final week, they've all clinched the playoff spots at being 8-4 already. So as far as playoff berth, those four are good, which means there's only 2 more spots up for grabs. And we know one of those 4 spots is whoever wins the shit division. So that means there's just 1 spot left available, and that will be fought for between Nate, Dan, and Josh. So here are the scenarios we're looking at for the wild card. Nate, Nate's at 7-5, while the other 2 are at 6-6. That's a 1-game lead with 1 to go. So Nate, if you win that matchup, you get that wild card spot. It's that simple. Nate just has to win, and he's in. But with that being said now, Nate has way less points than Dan. So Dan, out of these 3 teams, has the biggest points advantage. So realistically, for Bullet, if he wins and Nate loses, then Bullet gets it. So Nate, he just needs to win, or have Dan and Josh both lose, and then Dan just needs to win and have Nate lose. So they're all fighting for this last spot, and then there's Josh. So Josh can only tie Nate. He can only tie Nate because he's at 6-6 and Nate's at 7-5. So what Josh needs is he needs to win and have Nate and Dan lose so that he's tied and Dan's not winning on points over everyone. So that's what Josh needs, but then he also needs to make up 67 points on Nate. So Josh has to win and Nate lose and still make up basically a 70-point difference. So Josh is not mathematically out of it yet because that could still happen if he drops like 150. But as you'll see later, as in later right now, Josh has a very low percentage chance of making the playoffs. So here, this is gonna close to wrapping up this video. Here are the playoff berth probabilities. So Ryan, Jude, Nick, and Bob all at 100%. Given they are already clinched their playoff spots. And then Brendan and Scud, 0%, 3-9, not going to make the playoffs. So, out of the remaining teams, here's what we're looking at. I'll start with the shit division that I'm in. So this is based off the current CBS percent on the scoreboard. You know what I'm talking about. This is based off the CBS projections. So based on those and the lineups that people have set so far this week, in that division, I have a 28% chance of my scenario playing out. Kevin, he has a 30% chance of winning the division. And Carter, being that he just has to win and nothing else has to happen, has a 42% chance of winning the division. So it's going to be really close. No one has a more than 50% chance based off those CBS projections. And yeah, it's kind of ironic that the 1 year Carter's actually terrible. He's probably going to make the playoffs again and probably find himself in the championship, but we'll see what happens on the final day. Should be exciting there. And then the wild card spots. So Josh, this I rounded up. You have a 1% chance of making the playoffs, given that the scenario, the Nate has to lose, Dan has to lose, and you have to outscore Nate by 70 points. So yeah, rounded up 1%. Bullet, you have to win and Nate has to lose. It's just that 21% chance that you'll find yourself playing next week in the winner's bracket, not the Sacco bracket. And then lastly, Nate, you just have to win or have Dan lose. There's a couple different ways it can help you. You're looking at a 78% chance of playoff football, playoff fantasy that is. But I wouldn't say you're safe yet. 80% is not guaranteed, and we'll see how the final day plays out. So with that, I have no idea how long this video went. I'm probably a little too high to be doing it right now, but that's beside the point. And with that, I will see you guys in the playoffs. Fuck all y'all.